Welcome to the Haunted Hangover Podcast. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by
Manny.
And we're also
Manny and my margarita.
Manny and his margarita. All right, very nice. I'm drinking coffee. Yeah. Not as spicy as what you have.
Because you have the hangover. I'm working on the hangover.
I actually have a cold right now, so it's not even... I feel like I have a hangover, but I don't. And we're also joined by a special guest, Rob, from the Stabby Road Podcast.
Yep. And I'm here with just a pure leaf.
Hard stuff.
The least flavorful of all your drinks today.
Yeah.
Well,
Throw some whiskey in there, you'll be all right.
Throw a little rum, you'll be just fine. You'll spice it right up.
And I'll be completely passed out by the second half of your podcast.
Probably. That's usually Manny's thing. He'll be passed out after that drink. Manny will start slurring his words halfway through the show on his second or third drink.
Look, I've known this guy for 20 years. I need a drink to deal with him at this point.
There we
I need
go.
a little something.
But yes, Rob, tell us a little bit about the Stabby Road Podcast.
Well, yeah, we have a horror comedy podcast, which is basically we have 3 generations of horror fans, and we watch 3 horror films from our generation, and then we just chat about them, over a course of 3 weeks. We have another host, who's my son, Josh. We call him Stabby Tech Josh because he does all of our tech stuff. So next season, we're wrapping up our season at the end of this year. Our following season, we're going to actually have 4 hosts because Josh will be a 4th host. So then we're going to have themed months rather than every 3 weeks. So we just wrapped up Witches, which will drop in a couple of weeks. And this week, we're finishing up Lovecraft. So this Thursday is... Oh, no, we finished that. So we're starting up School Days. So by the time you see this, we'll have Strange Behavior, we'll have The Faculty, and we'll have...
Very nice.
Yeah, I can't remember which other one we reviewed. There's so many of them, because we're once a week, so we review them like quite often. But they're just fun, and we goof on stuff, and we do some serious stuff depending on... every episode varies. We did a whole trilogy of I Spit in Your Grave films, and those got
nice.
really kind of, and there's also Dr. Phibes we threw in there because it was Revenge Month, and that got like really deep. We all just started talking about trauma and stuff. So like those are the least comedic ones, but then there are others that we just do that are just completely goofy, and so they vary, and they're just a lot of fun to listen to.
It's hard to be goofy when you're talking rape revenge, right?
Right, exactly.
so I feel that. It's funny. I have yet to dabble on my show here any rape revenge stuff. I'm sure that's coming down the line eventually. Manny and I will probably talk about one of those movies that involve that subgenre of film. But
I could do. I honestly, I Spit in Your Grave 3. The third of the remake trilogy. That's my favorite of them all, including the original.
That's what I hear. I haven't seen the third one of them.
I absolutely love that one.
And as a fellow podcaster, this is a random question I'm hitting you with. I wanted to hit you with a curveball out of nowhere. What's the most difficult thing about being a horror podcaster? Just in general, like having your own horror themed show and being consistent, just everything about it. What's one of the more difficult aspects of it?
Podcasting in general, like we all have something to say, so for me, it's actually the editing part of it because I'm the one who edits them all. And so at this point in time, I can look at waveform and actually exactly tell you what word is I can look at the waveform and go, oh, that's let me cut that out. I don't have to. It literally looks like a bell on its side, like a Liberty Bell on its side. And I'm like, that's
You're cutting out your ums, huh? I don't cut my ums out. They stay right in there.
I always cut mine. That dude, 10 years of podcasting. I got more and more like specific with the editing, cutting out inhales and cutting. It's like to the point where I just want it to be nice and clean. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. That's so much work. I give it up to him for putting up with it and doing it so much,
every week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the most, for me at least, and I'm glad to hear it from another podcaster that the most difficult part or aspect of having a podcast is editing the podcast. It sucks. It's funny too because the more you do it, the the less you get the ums and the and the weird, awkward silences. It doesn't happen as often when you do this so frequent, I feel. You know, there's nothing kind of awkward like that in the recording itself, at least.
Well, we usually record 3 in a day. So then we have, you know, we bank 3 weeks at a time.
Impressive. Wow.
You know,
3 in a day.
It takes up the whole day. But so the first one, we're like out of the, you know, we're shut out of the gate. Like but by the third one though, there's a lot of awkward silence because we're just tired and we're exhausted. We're trying to find jokes, or we're trying to find important information to talk about or something like that. So you can always tell if you listen to them, the ones that are slightly shorter, because those are the ones that cut the most ums and silent parts out. That's the third episode.
That's the one where you guys are burnt out and have had enough of each other. You gotta have a lot of energy drinks and coffee or something, man. 3. The most I've ever done is 2 episodes of the show in one day. So it's about 3 hours maybe of recording back to back.
Right.
And you guys do this in person, right? You're all together?
Yeah, we're all together.
Which is
together.
Cool.
One of our hosts, her name is Sonia Harcourt. She's a comedian. She's also an adult film star. And she has her own studio in her apartment. So that's where we record. We record You saw when you saw
she has this awesome, like, I have the neon signs behind me.
Says Hell Here.
She has the Catwoman neon sign, Hell Here.
Hell Here.
Oh, nice.
It's awesome. It's so cool.
Very cool.
And if you look at it, the actual the O from hello and the T are actually there. They're just not in use.
Yeah.
So
I just like to hear that. It just makes me laugh sometimes because I have had other, guests on the show that are also podcasters, and some of them don't even edit their show. They just hit record and then hit stop, and that's the show.
If I ever went back to doing my own show, like if I brought back Collection Resurrection, that's what it's going to be. It's just going to no editing. We're just going to. We'll do some bullshit at the beginning that I'll cut out, and maybe a little bit here, but for the most part, I want the whole thing just straight through. I'm tired of the editing. Like, here, whatever you get, here's what you get. That's good enough.
No, for sure. But that's enough talking about the production side of podcasting and the editing. But I wanted to point one thing out. So here at Haunted Hangover, we always do our holiday-themed episodes. And it's Thanksgiving.
It is.
And usually we try to stick with something that involves a turkey or some sort of a pilgrim of some kind.
Cannibalism.
Cannibalism. Something. And I thought, you know what? This year, fuck it. We're going to talk about Lucio Fulci because he's yet to pop up here at Haunted Hangover.
And we all know he has turkeys in every movie.
Yes.
There's always a turkey.
Turkey everywhere. Come on. What's more synonymous than with Thanksgiving than Lucio Fulci? What's more Thanksgiving than Lucio Fulci? Hey, listen. Whenever he guts, and there's plenty of guts and gutting people being ripped apart in his movies, there are some sort of entrails in there that I'm sure have come from a turkey. Come on. Some gizzards or something. For sure.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Come on.
Yeah.
We've all got history with gizzards ourselves.
Oh, jeez.
So
we just told that story on his show last week.
We're not going to get into that here. But yes, we've all experienced making our own kind of gory moments using fucking actual meat and then regretting it later in life. Or a couple days later, forgetting about it. And then freaking out when we discover it. But
any Haunted Hangover guest listener who wants to know that story, go listen to the episode of Stabby Road that me and Lindsay are on, and you get to hear that whole story that he's referring to. So crossover, there you go.
There we go, crossover.
and funny enough, when you think about, Lucio Fulci and his career, which we'll get into very briefly here before we get into the main course. There you go. Of what we're going to be talking about. I feel like most people, especially horror fans, they only know, every time I've talked to horror fans at least, or people that I know in my circle, they know maybe like 4 movies, and that's about it, 4 or 5 movies. And it's funny because when we start talking about, what we're going to be talking about here, the listeners know the title of the episode, but we picked literally, each of us picked a moment from the same movie, which goes to show you how popular those 4 or 5 movies that horror fans love are. But it's interesting because when you look at his career and look at his filmography, the dude didn't start out as a horror filmmaker. He was making like dramas and comedies, which
mostly
is really
comedies.
Weird. Yeah, really in the 50s and 60s. And it's not until the mid to late 70s is when the horror and gore stuff, and even that I feel was it kind of slowly evolved into being ridiculous.
Yeah, he started in Giallo, I think 73. Was that
don't torture a duckling.
Ducklings,
yeah, that was 72.
Lizard in a woman's skin.
Yes,
and what's the third one? Oh, geez, the other animal movie. I forget the name of it.
The other animal movie.
Yeah, that's animal trilogy. It's Lizard in a woman's skin. Don't torture a duckling, and another one with an animal.
Another one with an animal at the end.
Yeah, I can't remember. But before you, I do want to add one little thing. Now, Lou, you may be too young to remember this, because by the time you were in school, it was a different version. But I guarantee you, Rob remembers this.
Okay.
When we were in school, do you remember watching the adaptation of White Fang in the 80s and maybe even 70s?
You mean in school?
Yes. They used to put when we used to do Jack London time, and we used to do that, and we used to watch White Fang. That is Lucio Fulci.
No way.
He directed White Fang and Return of White Fang. Yes, he did.
I know what White Fang is. Interesting.
And the only reason I say that, Lou, you might be too young is because by the time you were in school in 1991 was the Ethan Hawke White Fang.
Right.
So they probably showed you that one. But in the 80s, we watched the Lucio Fulci White Fang with the vicious wolf fight.
Of course.
There's a guy that there's some wolves in there, and there's one scene where the dog, I think it was a guy, and the dog attacks a person because the guy's coming, they're having a fight, and the dog saves the main character and like rips the guy's throat out. And wait,
time out. Yes. So wait, is this like a gory scene?
I do not remember, dude. I haven't seen it in 30 something years, but I know that there is a scene where the dog attacks someone. And it's apparently fairly bloody. I couldn't find a copy of it, but I just found this out like a couple years ago.
I did not know this.
I was 7, 8 years old watching a Lucio Fulci film in school.
That's hilarious that there's a Lucio Fulci adaptation of White Fang.
White Fang and White Fang 2 is a Return of White Fang.
It was challenge to White Fang.
And he actually wrote it as when they did the movie as a direct sequel, even though I believe it's a different writer entirely, a direct sequel to Call of the Wild.
Wow.
And I think Jack London did Call of the Wild, and White Fang was a different writer, I believe. I don't remember who wrote White Fang. I don't think they're actually
both Jack London novels.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then he did do it. Okay. So then so then it's correct. It should be. Right. But it actually picks up at the end of Call of the Wild.
Okay. Right.
Where he's now domesticating the wolf or the dog, the wild dog. He's domesticating it. But the Call of the Wild was a different director.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
White Fang was 1973, so that's a year after Don't Torture a Duckling.
There you go. See,
that was his next film after.
Yeah, so watching White Fang in elementary school, that is the one me and Rob were watching.
Yeah, I remember that.
I've seen the Ethan Hawke one, obviously, but I've never seen the Fulci one.
I always figured, I knew that we watched White Fang and Call of the Wild. We watched these movies back then, and I always said, I was like, it had to be the Ethan Hawke one, but I'm like, no, this was elementary school.
Yeah.
By the time Ethan Hawke came, I was 12 years old when that came out, so I was moving into junior high already.
Right.
I had to have been watching the Fulci one because I'm like, I was talking like third grade.
Yeah.
I have to see this. I did not know this was a thing. Like, it's funny. I guess looking at his filmography, I just kind of brushed over that one. I didn't even pay attention to it.
At the time, he was doing Westerns.
Well, yeah.
At the time, he was doing Westerns, so White Fang actually fit with what he was doing already.
Yeah, because For the Apocalypse was 75, and that's a great movie, and that's more of... And it's funny because the gore and stuff that he's known for, that's kind of those. I'm guessing White Fang too. Apparently,
a little bit. I mean, it's mostly just one guy and a dog. It's mostly just that.
Yeah. But even with like for the Apocalypse, it being a Western, and like spaghetti Westerns are, they have violence and stuff and blood, but that's where it started to get kind of ridiculous. It's weird because when you look at his films and you look at where it started and where it went, it just got more and more it's just dumber and dumber with the violence and more over the top. And I just find that so interesting. It's like, at this point, he was in his 50s?
Oh, yeah.
Like around 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
He was already like in his 50s.
I think he was 80 something when he died, which was 98. I think
was he even that old? I thought he was a little younger.
He was in his
than
80s.
That. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, but I know he was a little like, at this point he had already had like 2-3 decades of working on film before he gets to the point where everyone, the Godfather of Gore, which is I find so hilarious when people say that, because when you look at just all the movies he made, most of them aren't gory. They're just like these random Italian comedies and stuff like that. Very odd. Just like taking a step back and looking at it is just, I just find it hysterical.
Sir, you are correct. He was 69 when he died.
Oh, I knew he was young. I felt like he was a little younger.
I thought he was much older than that.
Yeah, I totally did too.
I always remember hearing and reading that Fulci did one, I think, Fangoria appearance here in New York. And then he died like a year later or a few months. It was one of his last appearances.
Yeah, he died in 96.
Yeah, and that appearance was one of his last and only appearances to meet horror fans and sign autographs and stuff like that.
Wow.
I remember because, 60-something years old, that's still relatively young, you'd think, because, again, all these movies he made, he was in his 50s. So he already had a career for 20 years or something like that before that. So I just always got a kick out of that. And even now, like for this episode, just going through his filmography, I guarantee half of the horror fans, and myself included, I have not watched most of the stuff he directed in the 60s. I could not have you guys? At all?
Well, back then he was, just as there were like utility directors here in America during the studio system, that's kind of how he grew up.
Yeah.
So it was basically whatever film the studio had for him. It wasn't until he started building up a name that he was able to call his own shots. But they were, when people were doing Westerns back then, it's because it's just like now if somebody wants to, if they don't have the DC or Marvel money, they'll try to do some knockoff superhero film that'll go to Tubi. It's the same thing back then. They didn't have Sergio Leone money, so they were trying to get people to just do Westerns.
Ripping off Sergio Leone movies, basically, and just kind of creating their own version of that kind of, that genre of film, those Westerns.
Exactly.
And his, again, the one I'm most familiar with is For of the Apocalypse, and that is a good movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not. No?
I used to have
really good.
I used to have the DVD. I watched it once and I gave it to Anthony.
Oh, you never saw it again.
Regular. Remember Anthony Regular? Yeah. He's a huge Western fan. Okay. And I bored the living hell out of me. I don't like Westerns. Yeah. And I was like, Fulci doing a Western. Let me give it a try. I bought the DVD. I think it was a Grindhouse release. Like it was a special edition DVD, like early,
I think I have an Anchor Bay is what I have.
It might be Anchor Bay. Yeah. It was 2001, 2002 or so it came out. I watched it, bored the living shit out of me.
It's a good movie, man.
Well, again, I don't like Westerns.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like it was just another one that I was like, nah, not for me. And I gave it to him and he absolutely loved it. He said it was one of the best spaghetti Westerns he's ever seen. So, that's when I was like, okay, then it's just Westerns that I just don't care for. So it's not that it's a bad movie. It's just, it's me. Me.
But even when you look and during the kind of Gore, Godfather of Gore year or decade of his career, he did direct stuff like Contraband, Conquest, which is an action film.
Action films,
a fantasy film. So, he did step out of that zombie entrails genre and try other things, which I always found interesting because even for me, and we'll quickly go into that, like where we discovered Lucio Fulci and when we started watching his movies, even for me, I was in high school. Manny knew me during this time. I was discovering, we all knew Michael Myers, Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger, Pennywise, all that shit. So at that point in my life when I was 13, 14, 15 is when I was discovering all these movies because they were getting re-released through Anchor Bay and through on video and things like that. So that's really where I started to learn about Fulci. And at that point in my life, I was really into death metal. which like forget about it. Like
It's
Lucio
Fulci.
Fulci was all over everything because of the gore. And I remember vividly seeing like you'd see like the death metal band posing. I don't want to name any names. I don't want to make fun of them, but like a death metal band, and some of them I love, so I'm not even really making fun of them. But they'd be standing there with like knives in front of like a Gates of Hell poster, and I'm like, what's the Gates of Hell? Or the samples that they would use. So that's kind of how I found out.
Well, Necrophagia kind of did that.
Yes,
like
and
he wore it.
as well.
He wore it on his sleeve. Like that was him. You know, he wore like he practically had Fulci's face tattooed on his own face. You know, like,
and that's one of the bands that I started learning about because I was a big Necrophagia fan before.
Yeah, Killjoy was
before learning about, you know, actually watching the movies and learning more about Lucio Fulci. Bands like Necrophagia, like Mortician, like there's so many. I'm just scratching the surface. Skinless, so many of them where they would sample.
I need a drink for Skinless.
They would sample, you know, like a scene from one of these movies and then go into one of their tracks. So it's always funny how I've always associated Lucio Fulci with death metal, like it just, and grindcore. It just goes hand in hand. Just that genre of music and his film. So that's kind of like my own personal. And then when I met Manny, you know, around that time, him and I was watching that stuff with him. And, you know, that's when you want to watch the most extreme shit when you're young and stupid. So it's like that's when that evolved. And we watched a lot of garbage, Manny and I.
Rivers of Gore. Oh my God.
We're not even going to talk about that, but yes, that's an inside joke. But that, you know, we were dumb. Like, you know, if there was a lot of gore in it, you wanted to watch it.
What song is that? I don't even know what song that is.
It's a Skinless
song.
It is.
That's right. Oh, there you go. Okay, I need a drink for Skinless. That's why. That's why it triggers that. Real quick, we shot just a bunch of random blood shots, like just stabbing things or cutting this, and then he cut it together and put it on a videotape, and we watched it. And the song starts, Rivers of Gore, and it's just a knife doing this. It's the worst, like purple and green blood. It looks amazing. Horrible.
It's amazing how terrible it looks. But that's where I was, and even he was in life at that point. It's like, do you want to watch the goriest, dumbest shit?
Just filmed blood.
Yes. And Lucio Fulci, you know, he fed us that whenever we watch. And at that point, he was dead, but his movies were living on. And they were notorious for being so violent. Now, Rob, when did you start watching Fulci, and when did you discover Fulci movies?
So I'm a little bit older than you guys, and I went to film school in the 80s. And a lot of guys were they were trying to emulate a lot of the Argento films. And when I started film school, I had no idea who Argento was at the time. All I knew about him was that he was just connected to Dawn of the Dead. That's all I knew about him. I had no idea what his connection was, because at that time I hadn't seen Dawn of the Dead. So back when Times Square was really a cool place to go, it was just dirty and grimy, and you would just go see whatever the hell. It was almost like international waters. It was like almost no law in Times Square. They had a lot of like just crappy ass horror film theaters. And so I started going to those because they had turned me on to Argento at the time, which was a lot of the other students there, because they were way more savvy into foreign horror than I was at the time. And I started going into these theaters, and I started seeing, I liked the word zombie. So I said, there's a movie called Zombie. Let me go see that. And I was like totally into the gore aspect of it. I loved that, to the point where I actually ended up thinking to myself, all right, I kind of want to be a makeup artist. I want to kind of, because I knew who Tom Savini was, and I knew who Rick Baker was at the time. And I ended up interning for a couple of guys who are actually kind of famous now. I don't know if I should mention their names, but but I learned that's how I started filmmaking. I started special effects makeup first. That's how so it was because of that, going to all those little crappy grindhouse theaters in Times Square.
That's awesome.
And then when I saw Zombie, I was like, okay, let me see who did this. And then I saw the name, Lucio Fulci, and I was like, oh, okay, let me see if I can find another, because there's no IMDb back then. You had to just sort of figure it out. And so I just kept looking at the posters until I saw his name over and over, and then I just started going to those, and that was my spider bite, my entry into those movies.
That's cool. That's cool that you were able to actually see them in Times Square
awesome.
when it was complete garbage, when it was like the worst.
It was the best. It's the theater stank. Sometimes there were like hookers in there, and
Amazing.
And it just stank of weed, and you just knew that the great thing about it was a movie that you could be in.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance you might not walk out alive. And that was the best thing about the film.
You know what's so funny?
I remember the ass end of that.
Yeah.
When I started hanging out in Times Square and mostly the Village.
Yeah.
Mostly down in the Village in 94, 95, when you could just you could literally buy crack on the corner.
Oh, yeah.
There was always some Jamaican guy on the corner, and he either had crack or weed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was, no coke, no hair. It was crack or weed.
Yeah.
Every single corner, there's some dude. You just look for the guy with the longest dreads, and you can buy drugs off him. And I'm 13, 14 years old. This is the Village to me. Long before it was the IFC Center, back when it was just Waverly Center. Or Waverly Plaza and all, yeah, I remember the very ass end of this, and that's when a little after then Giuliani had come in at that point and started, and then Bloomberg. So I watched everything change from between, in that 10 years from my teenage years to the 20s. Yeah. I got a little taste of it. I even got to go to Coney Island High. I got a little taste of that.
It's funny because I sometimes think about it, and, you always, even Rob, you telling us just kind of the stories of going and watching a movie like Zombie. It's just funny to think that at one point in time, you'd go into one of these theaters and something like Zombie was playing, and you'd have, the woman with the big wood splinter in her eye.
Yeah.
And there's someone getting a blowjob in the corner. One person snorting coke. Yeah. There's a stabbing in the back.
I am almost positive somebody OD'd in the theater once when I was in there.
Oh, God.
And no one cared. The movie, the lights came up. The usher came in, swept around it. Yeah.
It's just wild because, obviously, being a horror fan, and, I'm younger than... I'm a few years younger than Manny, and probably, I'm in my 30s. So,
right. I think Rob's got almost 10 years on me.
Yeah, probably.
He's the same age as Pat. So yeah.
So for me,
exactly.
It's just, I've read a lot about this stuff, and I know a lot about it because it's an interest of mine, the movies I like and stuff. So just hearing stories, and for my own family members that were around, and going to see a movie like Death Wish, and it would play in crappy theaters. And even though that was that's Charles Bronson, but they'd play it in those type of theaters, and it would be the most random movies. It would be like Death Wish and House by the Cemetery or something that. Or Dawn of the Dead and some random other zombie movie that's a piece of shit because they just wanted to fill the time. And you'd pay $1 and be there all day.
And be there all day,
which is interesting. Just kind of the fact that existed at one point and is not a thing anymore. I'm surprised no one's tried to recreate that. Obviously not for $1, but you pay a couple bucks and they just play movies for. I know they have these special events that are marathons and stuff like that.
That's as close as you're going to get to it.
Yeah, as close as you get to it.
12-hour lock-ins.
Yeah, but
I remember when I was
cool.
I remember when I was 13, 14 years old, and I would go to movie theater, and my friends and I, we would buy tickets for Mary Poppins or some stupid thing, but we would just go to all the other ones. That's how we saw The Exorcist. I mean, and it was in a revival, because I think it was only 78 or 9, somewhere between 78 and 80. So it hadn't come out first run. So it was in a crappy little theater, but we would just stay there all day going and seeing horror movies at 14, 15, and nobody cared. No one gave a shit. And we would just, go in there.
That's what Cross Bay was like. The Cross Bay Theater, the main, the Cross Bay 2 that I used to go to. You would buy, you weren't supposed to, but you did.
Right.
You bought a ticket, and then you just hopped from one theater to the next, and you'd spend the whole day because nobody was checking any of this shit.
Nope.
Yeah,
nobody
was before.
Looking.
That was a lot of those theaters were like that before Regal and AMC took over and stuff all those multiplexes. Yeah.
You know what it is? Because a lot of the people, especially those theater owners at that time, people who owned those theaters, they remember a lot of them remember the time of right before Psycho, because Psycho changed that. Because it used to be that you just bought a ticket and you walked into the movie. Whether it was the beginning of the movie or the end of the movie, didn't matter. You just walked in. You bought one ticket and you could stay the whole day. Nobody kicked you out. And the movie just looped, basically. So when the movie was over, they would play a newsreel while the projectionist flipped back to the first reel and then just start the movie again. And Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock instilled a thing where he wouldn't let people, he told the theaters not to admit anyone after the first 15 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is what created the showing up at the beginning of the film, where they would actually put times, because they didn't even put times of the movies back then. You're talking the 40s and 50s. That's it. They were playing this movie. You showed up whenever you showed up, and sometimes you'd watch the end of the movie, and then you'd stay and watch the rest of the film.
The beginning of it, yeah.
Yeah, so Psycho, he created rules and told the theaters they're not allowed to let anybody in after the first 15 minutes because you're going to ruin the whole experience of the film.
Right.
So that actually changed it. And I think that a lot of the theater owners in the 70s and 80s, they remember that from the 50s and that slow changeover. So that whole culture of people just coming to the movies and staying all day and hopping from one to, they never really instilled kicking people out, because it's like, this is how they grew up going to the movies. Why would I kick people out? They paid to get in. Let them do what they're going to do. If they ruin the movie for themselves, that's their problem, you know?
When it comes to Fulci too, and even looking at his filmography, to loop back around with the grindhouse cinema theater situation, when you look at his movies, it seems like that was the market he was going for too, because a lot of the movies were released almost in the same year.
Yeah.
So like the Black Cat and the Beyond is 81. And I know, Italy, they were released. Thing. Yeah, but they were released in Italy first. But then when they were released here, it'd be like Contraband, Gates of Hell, City of the Living Dead, 1980.
Right.
So I guarantee back in the day, you'd go to a theater and it would be Black Cat, The Beyond, like double feature, because, and he was, I don't know if he made residuals off of those. Probably not. He was probably paid per film and that was it. But I don't
know. I would think he got something.
It's weird when you look at his career in the 80s. He had movies. He'd released 3 movies in the U.S. in a year. 3 of his films were released here within a year. So it had to have been, the reason was to make money back on those movies, because all those theaters were playing multiple films all day. And it's like, if you think about it, they can play all these Fulci movies that I'm sure didn't cost that much in Italy. I'm sure they, if you think about it, you look back at it, they're probably inexpensive compared to movies, like even horror movies made now. So I just thought that was really interesting when you look at his filmography, how many were released back to back.
Well,
within the same year.
Well, when I say it was money, it was literally, a lot of it was literally just money. They were making films like Zombie and this for the express purpose of capitalizing on the success of George Romero.
Yeah.
Right.
Argento was one of the few who was actually making the films he wanted to make. Yeah. Fulci and Bruno Mattei, and that they were doing the films for the sake of making money. They were Roger Corman filming. Yeah. That's what they were doing. They were the Roger Cormans of Italy, where it's like, well, this is really popular now, and this can sell in a foreign market, so let's make this.
Right.
So, and that's how they did their things, to the point where Fulci got really popular doing, and Mattei got popular being the Fulci ripoff.
Right.
Yeah,
while Fulci was popular being the Romero ripoff.
Yeah, Bruno Mattei's movies, a lot of them are hard to watch. They're not like the greatest fucking films. When comparing apples to oranges, man.
And then even Mario Bava moved into that. Like, he was famous in his own right long before them. He was a big horror filmmaker before, but then come the 70s, 80s, he started doing the same thing and going down that route of just following the trend of what was popular. Right. And that's why most people only know his movies from the 70s, because those were the art. And these are, I don't know what the fuck he did after like 1975.
I feel like
in the 60s, because in the 60s, Bava was doing more like science fiction-y horror, like Planet of the Vampires and, stuff that like was a little more original than you would, you're right. And then once the 70s came about, they were all just on the same train.
Yeah. What year was Black Sunday and Kill Baby Kill? Those were early
70s.
71, I think was one. Yeah, right.
I think Black Sunday was 74, 75, was it?
I forget. Yeah. I forget, but it's interesting when you look at these guys' career, and because both of their careers, all these Italian directors, because I feel like Fulci, he was trying to make money, I think, at the end of the day.
Yes.
When you really look at it, it's like, all right, I'm going to make these ridiculous, even though some of them feel like ripoffs, like obviously Zombie is, they marketed it as a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, but even a movie like The Beyond, what was he trying to rip off? He wasn't ripping off a slasher movie or anything like that. So what was his deal with a movie like that? The Black Cat
I don't think that was so much a ripoff as it was just capitalizing on the popularity of the zombie craze, and that's it.
Yeah, it was more exploitive. Yeah.
Yes.
Because even a movie, when you really look at them, like House by the Cemetery, he never outright made a slasher film when slasher films were a big deal in the 80s, because a lot of these movies aren't really that. So he has an interesting career. I've always thought it was really interesting, just kind of the type of films he made and kind of how out there they were, where he's like this auteur director who, you watch a Lucio Fulci movie now and you know what it is, but I also don't think at the time that's what people were saying, like, oh, that's a Lucio Fulci movie. No, I think over time, he died. Even by the time I saw his movies, I knew who Lucio Fulci was in a Fulci film, but he had died 15 years before that. You know what I mean? So 20 years before.
I think that was when he started. Like, I know that they shot The Beyond in New Orleans.
Yeah,
they actually shot at least some of it in New Orleans, and there was stuff of,
and some of it in New York too. Yeah,
yes, and City of the Living Dead as well, and then.
New York Rippers in New York. Zombie 2 has scenes in New York.
Was New York Rippers shot in New York, or was it just some like B roll that was done? That was the thing he had done. Yeah, there were 3 films that he had the deal to do in the United States, from what I understand, I believe, and The Beyond was one of them. Gates of Hell, and there was another one. And they ended up like halfway through the shooting of Gates of Hell. They ended up going back to Italy and then shot the 3rd one in Italy as well, and just use stock footage of New York.
Right.
Yeah. To make it look like they had shot it, because because they were trying to sell to the American market. They had one of the producers, I forget the guy's name, but he had the idea for The Beyond, and I think he sold Fulci on a poster. And he's like, here's what I want to do, and here's the poster idea. And it just came from that. And he had this whole like existential reason for it. But I don't think Fulci was actually part of that. It was like, let's make a movie that sells to the American market. I mean, Dawn of the Dead was 78. Zombies were now huge.
Yeah.
And so let's just do that. They did a zombie movie, and they had done zombie movies before that, and apparently people had laughed at them because they were just so silly. So like, well, let's do something that people don't laugh at, that the Dawn of the Dead fans can watch and respect.
Yeah,
I think that was really what did it.
I think when it comes to, in my opinion, at least Dawn of the Dead and Zombie, I think Dawn of the Dead is a better movie, but Zombie, I guess, it's technically a darker movie. It's a little more serious, but it is interesting how they're not that close, I guess, together in release, but nonetheless, the zombies are completely different in both.
I like
of those
to pretend
movies.
this is the island they were flying to.
Oh God, that's the one that they're flying to.
That's the island they're gonna fly to.
The worst zombies are on the island. There you go. So.
Zack Snyder did it. That's what they got there and said, "Fuck."
Yeah, the really gross ones are there.
Yeah.
So because Manny, we didn't even touch on you.
Zombies.
But Manny, when did you discover Fulci? Before we go to the main topic. What did you?
I'll try to make it quick. I mean, I was in elementary school. There was a movie. They played this movie called White Fang.
Yes, which we talked about.
No.
That would have been amazing if that was your pretentious answer. Well, I saw White Fang when I was about 9.
And I've been hooked ever since.
Directed by Lucio Fulci. I've got to watch the rest of his films. But no, yes, continue.
No, when I was young, that right there, I'm in reverse here. That poster was always, that big box was in the video store, but I never rented it because it actually freaked me out.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it was. It was really scary. And I think on the back too was a picture of somebody's like throat being ripped out or something like that. And I was like, whoa, but it was awesome. And then I remember the Gore Zones and Fangorias when they had the masks, and there was always a mask of that, you know, and I always wanted one, but I never got it because those, even then, they were like $100 each, you know, and buying a mask for $100 in like 1988 for an 8-9-year-old kid, that's not happening.
That was a secondhand car back then.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's not happening. Your parents are not buying that for your 8-year-old who's probably gonna leave it under his bed, and you know,
right.
And on top of that, masks were not the quality that they are today either. You know, so who knows how well it would have survived an 8-year-old's chaos of a bedroom. But so I always remember that, and then in high school, late 90s or a little after high school, Kim's Video.
Right.
I mean, beyond
St. Mark's Place,
Yes. My Kim's Video. I loved St. Mark's Place, but my Kim's Video that I always went to was Kim's Underground on Bleecker.
Yeah.
And that was the downstairs store. And their little corner, I always felt like they had more like lesser known and crazy extreme horror films there, and they had a lot more foreign releases because Kim's on St. Mark's really focused more on the rentals.
The upstairs area. I remember,
they focused more on rentals, and honestly, I thought the guys in the ones at St. Mark's were just a bunch of pretentious assholes. Like, I felt like they were just dicks, and I didn't like being in the store because, like, I'm 17, 18 years old. I don't know anywhere near as much as they do. So I didn't want to be in a conversation with them because I felt like they were going to make me feel like an idiot. You know, so they were the type of people where you walked in, you asked for a recommendation, and they said, well, you know, if you've ever seen The Beyond, and you look at them like, what? Then you got a half an hour of berating coming to you because you've never seen The Beyond. Kiss my ass, you pretentious shit. But seriously,
I think we just triggered Vanny.
No, I hate that gatekeeping shit. That's what it is. I hate that gatekeeping stuff even to this day, you know, and that's why I like doing podcasting, because I feel like we can introduce this, especially being older. Podcasts are very popular amongst younger film fans, especially. This is how they find new movies. And I know this for a fact just from Rob's kids. His two sons, they'll say, oh, I heard a podcast on this, I heard a podcast on this. And so that always makes me feel good that I'm still podcasting, talking about these new movies, because I'm introducing it to them. I'm breaking through that gatekeeping barrier. So that's why I never went there. Underground was more my style. People left you alone. You did what you want to do. And they always had a little... Anyway, in that store, I bought the New York Ripper VHS. I bought the Beyond tin box. And these were Anchor Bay's. Yeah, these are the Anchor Bay releases. And I got the Anchor Bay DVD of Zombie. And these are the first time I think I was 19 or 20 or so. I had seen parts of New York Ripper because there were websites that had video back then, but it was very slow and it was very crappy, you know. But they they did exist. There were a few. There were a few websites, and a lot of them were gore type websites, you know, and they would, in between like the real gore, it would be clips of stuff like Mondo Cane and Zombie, you know, and Faces of Death. That would be in there. So I saw clips of this back then in 96, 97, 98. You know, and that was it in like, what is this, like 480 i video. It's like that big on your screen, and it's all pixelated and crappy, you know. So I saw that, but then when I was old enough to buy it myself, I saw that Zombie poster on a DVD and I bought it. And I saw the director's name, so I bought others. And I watched The Beyond first, and The Beyond in the Anchor Bay tin box. I had a little laptop with a DVD player, because I didn't have a DVD player yet. I watched everything on my laptop, and I put my headphones on, and I watched The Beyond with headphones, and this movie scared the living shit out of me. The sound design and the music was so absolutely just nightmare-inducing. I loved it. And as soon as it was over, I put it on and watched it again. I sat in the dark, laid on my couch, and watched this thing on my laptop 2 inches from my face with big like sound canceling, what sound canceling was at that time, headphones. And I just had the time, and I was like, wow, this movie is amazing. Absolutely, I've never seen anything like that before.
It's so funny that everyone. It's what were we saying?
I was saying I remember having nightmares as a kid of just the blind woman's eyeballs, because that's something I'd never seen before. Those just like using like eyeball colored sclera lenses over your lens, just make them completely white like that. And I just remember being just so creeped out by that as a kid. Yeah.
It's probably his most. I feel like that's why it's his most popular film, just because of how batshit insane it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like a zombie movie about another dimension. It's like a bunch of shit, like all just put to the painting. It's just a bunch of shit.
If somebody asks you like, oh, what's The Beyond about? I was just like, just see it. I can't
watch it.
I don't know if I can fully explain exactly and give it any kind of justice whatsoever.
Somehow there's a painting involved.
Yeah. I still don't know how it's involved. I still don't know how.
There's a house, and then there's a painting, and then there's a dude that works at the hospital, morgue or a hospital, and there's zombies.
Joe the plumber.
Joe the plumber.
And the biggest, nastiest beard. Oh
yeah,
my God.
It's funny because I feel like a lot of his movies, specifically Beyond and House by the Cemetery, both of them, it's kind of hard to explain. Like House by the Cemetery, this woman, this family moves to a house, and there's a dude who's a monster living in the basement, murdering people. Like it is when you think about it. These are like acid trips.
Yeah.
Written into screenplays and then made into movies, into horror films. So really just wild stuff. It's funny because I think I watched The Beyond with Manny around the same time.
I remember years before. It was a couple of years before I met you.
But I think when I had first seen it was around that time when like Grindhouse re-released it for the first time. Was it them? I think it might have been them the first time they got their hands on it. That's when I saw it.
Yeah, no, the Beyond that I have is the Anchor Bay box.
Yes.
That is still the copy I have. I've never got a Blu-ray because I heard there's a 4K coming soon. So I'm just holding out on not buying that Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I want the 4K, and
I'm
hoping they have the producer's cut and the composer's cut on them, because there's a 4K of the composer cut, which just music.
Yeah.
So I'm really holding out for those.
That's a movie, Manny, I think you and I need to 2 hours. Beyond.
I saw The Beyond live. I
was there.
With
Fabio Frizzi. Was it Fabio Frizzi?
We saw Fabio Frizzi play and the band play it live.
It was great. It was amazing. Yeah.
And I have
that was a good show.
The Frizzi, the Fulci to Frizzi record from it and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Front row.
Yeah, you guys were right in the front. I was like towards the middle, I remember.
Yeah.
You guys were way up there. Yeah.
I mean, was he just like a seriously old guy in front of a? I mean, how old was he? Yeah.
No, he didn't. He did. If he is that, if
60s,
he is
maybe?
kind of no way, 60s, dude. The movie's 40 years old.
Yeah, maybe 70s now. This was a few years ago, so he's probably maybe like John Carpenter's age, because I saw John Carpenter perform too, and he was like 68 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
So 60 or so.
And it was a full orchestra. He's 72. Frizzi is 72.
There you go. Almost the same age as John Carpenter. Basically the same age. So yeah.
But that was awesome. And then they do a full set afterwards too. After they played the movie, they did a full music set. It was amazing.
It was great. But yeah, the main topic at hand, the gore. the gore is
2 hours later.
Godfather of Gore. I thought it would be fun for us to pick some of our favorite Fulci kills, gore moments from his filmography, and talk about them a little bit. And at the end of the episode, we're going to take our 6 picks and try to rank them between the three of us without arguing which one's my pick's the best. Real quick, before we get into our official picks, let's run through some quick honorable mentions. I'm going to start just because I have the most obvious one, which I mentioned before, which is the zombie eye splinter. I think that's probably... from Zombie.
The most famous.
The most famous murder and kill. It's funny, I'm playing this video game right now called Gates of Hell, and they recreate that kill in the game. I think I sent Manny a poster. It's like it looks like a VHS. And it kind of has the graphics.
It's on the PlayStation Network for like $10 right now.
It's $10, yeah. And the game is heavily inspired by Lucio Fulci's films. And in the game, there's actually a scene where you're walking down a hall and a arm comes out of the wall, grabs you, and your character loses an eye because you get your head shoved into a splinter. It doesn't kill you. You continue playing the game with one eye. It's hysterical. Like, they know what they did. But yeah, I think it's the one everyone knows, man. Everyone knows that kill. That tells me
that if she survived that, then Bill Paxton survived the Terminator attack. Okay? They just threw him into a fence, okay? He's still alive.
He definitely survived that.
He definitely survived. He's naked, but he survived.
I never thought about that one. Thanks, Manny.
Dude, I've been saying that for... When they talk about Bill Paxton being the only one to die by 3, like, they only threw him into a fence. He didn't kill him.
The other dude got the arm through the stomach and chest and whatever.
The other guy lost his jacket, you know?
But yeah, I wanted to start with that one because I feel like that's the one everybody knows, the eye splinter.
Yes.
It is gruesome. It's one of the first ones I think I saw when it comes to, I saw Zombie and the Beyond. I forget which one it was I saw first. And I remember even for me, watching that scene at the time, being the little gore whore that I was like, it got me, especially when he moves her head a little bit and the wood kind of, and then her head turns. I'm like, oh,
he just pulls the side of her head out.
He definitely has an obsession with eyes.
Yes,
because
that's why I turned the light bulb, the eyeball light bulb on. I was like, you know what?
I don't know if that's a phobia inside of him or if that's something that he knows would trigger people or whatever. But it's in pretty much most of his horror films.
Yeah, I think he just knows it. At that point, he was just trying to shock people, and the eye will always make you kind of cringe whenever you watch.
The eyeballs, spiders, maggots. That Argento's always got maggots. You know, it's one of those things that just makes your skin crawl. So just throw it in there. Why? Who knows? A room of barbed wire. Why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, but that zombie eye splinter is at this point I've seen it so many times it's like I'm not fazed by it.
Yeah.
But if you show it to someone that has never seen Zombie, I guarantee they're just gonna be like,
to fuck with them
and look away or something. Yeah. Scream. I think one time I remember when I put it on for my wife the first time I ever put it on for her. Even she's gore doesn't really faze her. She was even like, just looked, because they do such a good job. His makeup effects are always on point in these movies.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh God, you can feel it. Like, it is pretty painful to watch. But yeah, wanted to show some love as an honorable mention at the top here. I know you guys have some honorable mentions. So Rob, we'll start with your honorable mention or two.
I have two. Yeah, I've got two honorable mentions.
Hit us with them.
The first one is the spider death from the Beyond, which is it's completely ridiculous because tarantulas simply don't do that. But I love it. I love it so much because it's just a slow burny thing, and they just start chewing at his lip. There's that one weird puppet spider for no reason.
Yes, that's the one.
It's just there.
It's just like on a string jumping up and down, but like integrated with the other spiders, which I never understood because it's not like he does any sort of hero move or anything like that. He's just there to just fill in the gap with spiders.
So that's a blank space on the screen here.
Yeah.
The one thing with that spider kill from the Beyond that I always thought was hysterical too, with the puppet spider, is like they're like moving his lips. It's like really awkward. It's like they're just like moving. It's like they're really trying to use like the way your face moves to make you kind of freak out. But it's it almost looks comedic because they do look fake at times, but. That is a good one.
All the little things I have here, I don't have a spider that I can just grab. All the little things I have. There's no spider sitting here.
But he's not even like there's no articulation, which is even funnier. It's just on a string, and he's just literally just going like that.
It looks like a Halloween decoration.
But the others are clearly alive around them.
Yeah.
And it's so inexplicable that I love it so much because it's just it's so bizarre. You know.
And what's your second one?
My second one is from City of Living Dead, which is the couple making out in the car at Dunwich. The girlfriend whose eyes just start bleeding. I love that effect so much because, and you know, as a former makeup person, you could see that there are these little tiny tubes that come just to the edge of her eyes, and her hair is covering it. But I'm watching it from the point of view of the actor, having to keep her eyes open without having to blink and having those things fill up at the bottom of her eye. I cringe every time I see that because I just imagine how many takes that must have taken, because you can't blink, because if you blink, then it ruins the effect, because then the blood goes everywhere, and it just has to feel, it has to look like she's crying blood. It's just, and then on top of that, having to spit up all the guts and stuff, because the first part of that, she actually doesn't. She actually regurgitates all those guts, and then it moves to like a dummy mouth.
Yeah, that's I would call that probably the second most popular death scene from one of his movies, because I feel like that one you see in a lot of compilations and things like that. People tend to go back to that one, and then the shot of her mouth and all, like there's that really static shot where it's just like a fake mouth, and then all the
she's vomiting her guts up. How much more iconic?
I know.
Yeah,
and then the boyfriend gets his head peeled off, and obviously I'm guessing they just had the one dummy with the head being peeled off the back, because they use it about 6 times in the movie. That exact same effect. Oh yeah, it happens to the one girl who comes back, and then there's another guy who puts the back of his head, but it just constantly happens. You're like,
they've recycled the same prop.
It's the exact same prop. It's the same guts that come out, the same brain, it's the same everything. So you're like, they just keep using it over and over again.
I always wondered how many times they shot, like how many takes did it take to kind of shoot that? It must have taken at least 1 or 2. They have to do it more than once. It'd be amazing if they only had one shot at it, but I doubt that.
Yeah.
They had a fake mouth, and they probably just filled it up, spit it out,
just
keep it up.
You know what? Maybe the guts were like a ring, so they had and they just kept pulling. They just kept pulling, and it's just going in circles.
That'd be funny if it's just like, and they're obviously real good. They use like
donut
real.
of guts.
They use like real animal guts, and you could just tell it's like intestines and shit like that.
Yeah, and it's like cased like sausages are. You know what I mean? Too, like it's just like coming out. It's like so gross.
It's almost comedic when you watch it back, but
they spent all their budget on flying them and the crew to New Orleans. They spent flying everybody out here. So like, you know what, just go to the store and buy some guts and leave it at that.
But that probably, and I'm glad we're talking about these at the top, because those are probably those two specifically.
Yeah.
I think everyone's always like, oh, remember the entrail vomiting? Yeah. Remember the splinter in the eye? Like those are the two I think everyone is like,
they're not like honorable mention as much as it is. These are obvious.
These are obviously number one. Like
these
number one,
number
1 and number 2 would be one of these two.
Yeah.
In whatever order you prefer, but it would have to be one of those two. So
then let me break that with mine.
There you go. Go for it.
Let me break that with mine. One that most people don't know, because one of his later films is Demonia, with a haunted kind of weird ghostly nun. At the end of the film, near the end of the film, the nun is kidnapping one of the boys, and something that is one of my pet peeves of Fulci, he has a thing for annoying little blonde boys.
Mommy, why does that girl keep telling me I shouldn't go there? The one standing at the window in that house.
Everyone in his movie, there's always some fucking annoying little blonde kid that I just want to strangle the shit out of this.
Yeah.
Because the ADR is always terrible. It's never a kid doing the ADR. It's always some adult just going, oh yeah, I'm a child. Fuck you. It's so annoying. And everybody hates Bob.
Yeah.
Everybody hates Bob.
That's what came to mind, Bob.
Exactly.
That was the first thing
Everybody
that came
hates
to mind.
Bob. He has Bob in like every movie. There's a Bob everywhere.
He's in the one with the mummy. What's the name of that one? Shit. I don't have that on my list here.
Yeah. Well, because that's like, that's like Fulci's
actor.
concept. Yeah, that's like Fulci's concept of an American name, which is just Bob. So there's a Bob in every one of his
Who the fuck names their kid Bob? Like, William is fine, and they call him
Lucio
Fulci.
Fulci.
When he's 8 years old or 6, you don't call your son Bob. You call him Bobby, or you give him Bob. No, but that makes me wonder how much say he actually had in the ADR.
Yeah.
Where it was just farmed out and someone did it. And House of Sweet Horrors makes me wonder that. Whether he had anything to do with it, because the dialogue is, anybody watch House of Sweet Horrors, it is some of the worst dialogue in the history of ADR.
I haven't watched that in a long time, but I know what it is.
Shit.
Yeah.
That was another one of the VHS I got. I got that regular slipcase VHS from Kim's. So Demonia is my because it's ridiculous. I love it, but it's absolutely ridiculous. So
it is.
Yeah, there's this little boy, the Bob of the movie, is being kidnapped by the ghostly nun, and he's just screaming, "Daddy, Daddy!" And Daddy's running through the woods like, "Bob, Bob!" I don't remember his fucking name. He's like Julian or some shit. "Bob, Bob!" And that's it. And he's running, and the kid is running, and the kid finally breaks away from the nun, and then we cut back to the father, and suddenly the father is tied down to the ground. He was just running in the last shot. He was running, and suddenly now he is tied up. His two hands are tied together to a stake in the ground, and his two legs are now tied to a tree on either side of the screen. Who put him there? How he got stuck? No fucking clue. There's absolutely no explanation. And then the Bob kid comes running.
Movie. Such a dumb movie. It really is a dumb movie. But continue.
And then the Bob kid comes running, "Daddy, Daddy." He's like, "No, don't move, don't move. No, son, don't move. Stay there, stay. Oh, Daddy." And the kid runs at him anyway. And then the thickest rope. This rope has to be an inch and a half thick. It's fucking, and the kid trips over it and hits the ground.
So
and
stupid.
the rope triggers the two trees on either side to rip his legs and tear him in half.
Oh my god! It totally wishbones him.
In the most bloodless.
Yeah.
Which is the worst part. There's no blood. It's just the guts.
Yeah, it looks
the
like
most
dried
bloodless evisceration bisection you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the funniest part is you can even see that the PAs who are on, whoever's on either side pulling, the pants won't tear. So you see them pulling.
It's so dumb. You gotta see this to fully appreciate it. Like, we can't show you here, but you gotta go on YouTube. It's on YouTube, I can confirm. If you don't want to watch the movie, that's fine, but watch the scene. It sounds more horrific than it actually is because it looks so stupid.
So fast. And then, as if it wasn't bad enough, we then cut to the mother in the trailer waiting because she thinks her son is gone now. And the son comes, she turns and she sees the son, and she's just, and then we cut to the son covered in blood.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
As if he rolled around in his dad's dead body. He's covered in blood.
It is pretty dumb. The whole movie's like that. This is the movie where people just fall on bed of spikes. It happens like twice in the movie. There's a scene where they just throw a baby on fire, and it's like, the baby's crying and stuff. There's a scene where a hook attacks a guy like a meat hook and kills it. And everyone it's bloodless when it penetrates them, and blood comes out of their mouth. It's weird that
everyone coughs up blood.
It's weird.
Brilliant.
I got shot in the leg. Movie. Cough up some blood.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like maybe he didn't have the money, I guess, for the actual effect.
Oh my god!
So he just had people spit up blood. But it is a dumb scene.
Yes, and this is why it's my honorable mention, because it's a really, really cool thing to rip. Like, it gets ripped in half and it looks, but there's no blood. There's no, how the fuck did this happen? And then suddenly the blood it's like, it's just so ridiculously done. But the kill itself is awesome.
Oh, it is.
Like, it's really cool to see somebody literally ripped in half by their groin and all the way up to his head. Like, it rips the entire body in half.
Brilliant.
I don't think we're selling it right now, but it is a pretty intense visual. But I think if you listen to this, you're probably
it might be the same. It might be the same guts that she vomited up in
years later.
Just recycled it.
But it does. It looks like them. It's that it has the same look as those guts, so it looks very real. But there's no blood for some unexplained reason. No idea why. There's no blood in it. It's so weird.
Very.
So that's
very
why it's
strange.
honorable mention.
The whole movie, and not to get too deep into it, but the entire Demonia film is
Yes.
harpoon kill. A
I
random
like
harpoon.
Demonia. I like
do
Demonia.
too.
Yeah,
But
I
I like
like
it 'cause it's
Enigma
dumb.
better. I think
Yeah.
Enigma is a way cooler film, and that's another one that a lot of people don't talk about.
Well, Demonia is a killer nun. The whole movie's
Yes.
a killer ghost
He
nun.
tried.
Yeah.
He tried to make a nunsploitation in like '94, and it's
Yeah,
like,
it
who
makes no
wants nunsploitation anymore?
A little late there, Lucio Fulci.
little bit.
All right, Rob. Let's go into the actual picks now.
Okay.
Let's go into our actual picks, and what we'll do is we'll each go one at a time. We'll take our turn, and we'll talk about our 2 picks, and then continue from there. It'll be Rob, me, then Manny, and then at the end we gotta rank them. Rank all 6. So
All right.
Rob, take it away.
All right. Well, we spoke about him before very quickly about his lovely beard. So I'm talking from the Beyond. It's Joe the Plumber's eyeball death. Now there are 2 eyeball deaths in the Beyond. I keep saying from Beyond, which is a completely different. The Beyond, and I almost picked the other one, which was the woman in the bathroom and the crucifixion nails, where she gets pushed into it and it pokes her eye out.
It's a good one.
It's a great one. I love it.
Yeah.
The one I like, but this one I liked a lot more only because it just seemed like someone could actually do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the thumb right, and it just because it doesn't push it out, it pushes it out from the side, which is so weird and so it's just so visceral. And so for me, that was like that's the one I'm choosing that one.
It's funny in that scene. I always remember he comes to the house because there's like a leak, right? That's the initial reason why Bob
and he
the
pulls
plumber.
up, and I love the fact that
Joe the plumber, not Bob the plumber. Joe the plumber.
Not Bob. Fuck Bob.
But I also love the fact that the art department just gave up on his truck. You know what I mean? It's just like Joe's Plumbing. It's just like it is. They put no thought. They put no thought into the side of the truck.
But you know what? If you really think about it, how many times in your life have you drove past Joe's Plumbing?
Yeah.
Like, there's 1,000 of them.
He is a plumber, and his name is Joe.
There's no one named Joe that works at this place, but it's Joe's Plumbing because easy to remember. Marketing.
The other thing about that scene, I always just like the way it looked. There's sort of like the lighting and the wall kind of melting, and he's sticking his hand in.
Yeah.
Like, it's really just like besides the obvious great effect of his eyeball being popped out and coming out to the side there, just the whole setup. It does look eerie. Like I know right now we're laughing and having a good time, but when you watch the scene, it is pretty intense. You're like, oh shit, So, and that's another thing Fulci loves: kind of arms coming out of holes,
out of walls. Because also like whose arm is that? Because they never really fully go into where that comes from. We know it's a spooky underneath this hostel or brothel or whatever the woman is trying to make when she inherits the place or buys it. I forget what she does, but no one ever checked the basement to see how creepy this basement was. And again, whose arm is that? It just comes out of nowhere, out of just some random hole it's not even a wall. It's like a cave wall. It's like the side of a cave.
Yeah. And like I said, the wall's made of like clay where it's just falling apart. So like when this arm rips, it's very odd, but it's an arm from the beyond. It's a beyond arm. It's
from the beyond,
the ungodly warlock.
Yes, there you go. It's that guy that gets killed in the beginning.
Yep, the ungodly warlock.
Somehow his body's in the wall now. He was on the wall, now he's in the wall. I don't know. It is a good one though. It is a good one, and And I didn't say this earlier because we mentioned necrophagia and on the topic of the Beyond, and it's gonna the Beyond comes up a lot in this episode, man. That's why we have to cover it. I remember what necrophagia has a music video that I forget the name of the song. It's about the Beyond. The entire track is about the Beyond, and the music video is literally every single gore scene with this one included, and the next couple we're gonna talk about because there's several Beyond mentions on this list. And it's amazing. Every single death scene in the movie is in this music video. And I remember vividly watching the music video and seeing Joe the plumber get his eye ripped out. Not even ripped out, but kind of his head
just sort of pushed out. Yeah.
Pushed out. So that's a good one. I do appreciate the Joe the plumber. I gouge, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, I push. I can't. Yeah, exactly. You can't really describe what happens. So the next one after that is from City of the Living Dead. It is, and here comes the name, Bob's drill press face. That is one of my favorite because it's so cleverly executed. You know, it's a retractable drill that's constantly spinning. So when the press goes in, and then the blood. I'm imagining there's a blood pack behind the drill that you can't see.
I'm going to assume that the drill itself, the drill bit is hollow.
Right.
And the blood is retractable running through it. Once it hits his face, there's blood running through the drill bit itself that bleeds off that. Because that's how we did that for Zombie Hunters once.
Right.
Where we did a drill death and and Mike hollowed out the back of the drill and he got he created like a ceramic drill bit and put a hole through it and ran the blood hose through it. So he actually did that. He actually did that same drill thing, and that's how he did it. I'm going to assume they did the same thing, where it's just a hollow drill bit. Yeah, which is why it's so big too.
Yeah, and it's also very effective. I mean, because then it switches to a dummy going through the other side. Yeah. But then there's a wide shot after that, which is live. It's practical, and the drill is still going on both ends. I'm still not 100% sure how they pulled that off.
Yeah, because it's the same thing. It's a drill on either end, basically.
Right, but
it would be a drill on either. It would be one, and there would just be like something on the side here, so it's not like tearing up his skin. Or maybe fuck it, they just let it, and he ended up with a bruise.
Yeah, right. but they're both turning at the same time. It's really like it's a really terrific effect.
And that is a good scene. The setup of that scene, from what I remember, is pretty ridiculous. The girl's like, "Want to smoke a joint with me?" And he's like, "No, babe, I don't want to smoke a joint." And then the dad shows up, pervert, and beats the shit out of him. And then he's like, "I'm gonna kill you.
I'm gonna kill you because you smoked weed with my daughter.
You tried to bang my daughter. Like that's basic. That literally is the setup.
You tried to bang my daughter on weed.
Yeah.
On weed. And then, funny is he doesn't even want to smoke the joint. She wants to smoke the joint.
He got killed because he wanted to do the right thing. And then his dad like really slowly, but you know what I mean? It wasn't exactly an act of passion.
Thing.
It's a very slow move to this drill. You know, and really it's 12 different shots of him, the drill, him back, the drill, the dad, the drill. But it should have been like 3 or 4 shots.
I feel like Fulci,
and he's watching it. He's like,
"Oh yeah."
He doesn't even try to fight back.
Let me not fight. Let me not
even
fight.
Freak out. He just sort of like.
Maybe if I wait, it'll run out of power.
It's similar to the eyeball.
Bob thought it was battery powered.
It's similar to the eye splinter, where it's like just like the slow bringing the head to whatever's going to penetrate it kind of situation. I think that's just Fulci trying to he's trying to make it tense, but then when you watch it now, it's a little ridiculous. Like, more abrupt would have been more effective, but he was like, "Uh-oh, is he going to escape?"
Cinema
I don't
at
think
the
so.
time. Yeah, I think it worked at the time doing that. You know, a lot that anticipation of making the kill slow, and people were, "Oh my god!" Oh, you're like, "Oh god! Oh god!" And they turn away 17 times. The scene is still going.
The one thing I'm learning from all of these, right now, even with your 2 picks, Rob, that we just talked about, the setup to both scenes, ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
it's fucking stupid, but it's the best. So my first pick, also from the Beyond,
surprise,
is this is something, and the reason why I picked this is because to me it's always just the effect, the impact it makes, the fact that it's a child, I feel is what makes the scene, I guess, shocking in a way. And in this scene, in the Beyond, You've got the two characters. I believe the guy's name's John, and I forget what's her name. Christine McCall. I forget. I know the actress's name.
Yeah.
I forget. Yeah, I forget her character's name in the Beyond at the moment. But they're in the, I think it's a morgue or the hospital.
It's a morgue, yeah.
It's a morgue, and he's going to save her and whatever, and he's got his gun, and he's just literally busting caps into all these zombies. It's amazing, the scene.
Yeah.
And I believe is it Joe the plumber's daughter? I think so.
Yes, because Joe and his wife.
Because he's in there. He's in the morgue. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So Joe the plumber, their little ginger daughter, is with the two adults, and they're trying to escape. They're killing all the zombies. They're trying to survive this situation. The little girl is possessed by the beyond, by what's happening, and my man literally unloads a shot. And this little girl's head turns into a crater. And we get this phenomenal shot. It looks like they actually shot this fake head with a gun.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
The head literally bounces back. And you get the teeth and all that. There's a giant hole.
Yeah.
It looks silly, like looking at it now. But I'm sure at the time when people saw that scene, considering it's a kid, they're like, shit. Because she's got to be like 12 years old or something. Yeah. And it comes out of nowhere because she starts to attack Christine McCall. I'm probably butchering her name right now. But that actress there you go. She's been in a bunch of a bunch of his movies. But she's attacking, and then there's literally this great shot of him just with the gun, points it at the kid, unloads, head blows up. It's a great, and you could tell they sort of built this fake head where that area, I guess, was softer. It's something. They might have not shot it with a gun, maybe like a BB or something like that to make it kind of blow up.
I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, they did a shotgun in Maniac. They did it in Scanners. I wouldn't be surprised if they just used an actual shotgun.
Yeah, maybe.
Why wouldn't you?
It's a great visual, and I remember vividly this image of this little girl's head with a giant hole in it has been in death metal music videos, T-shirts, on the cover of the movie magazines. To me, as much as, the eye splinter and even the entrail vomit is iconic, I think this shotgun, it's not a shotgun, but shot to the face of this little girl, very iconic. Yeah. And I just think, when I see this, I just think of Lucio Fulci. I was like, this guy was like, you know what we're going to do? Blow this little girl's head off. Like that.
Why not?
There you
Fuck
go.
it.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Who cares? He's not scared to kill the children in his movies. So
no.
Yeah, like you said, it's everywhere. I said off before we started recording, I said, I own T-shirts of 3 of the picks that we have today.
Wow.
So,
and this is a very
this is one of them.
And this is a very brief thing. I don't want to go into it too much, but apparently, I think I saw on Twitter or something, there's a lot of backlash with the new Terrifier movie because I think he's killing kids or something.
Yeah, somebody had a problem with it, and I'm like,
it became viral, this person. And I'm like, yo, are you I guess you're not a horror fan because kids have been getting slaughtered in movies for years, this being a prime example in the Beyond. So that's my first pick, and I don't understand people that are up in arms about this.
I think that was someone
killed.
who is actually clever enough to understand that if they complained about that, they'd go viral.
Probably.
I genuinely think that. Yeah.
More than likely.
They did that on purpose to go viral. I really believe that.
Have you ever seen Pet Sematary? Like the most such a popular movie.
And on top of that, in the teaser, the kid doesn't actually get killed. He's just there. So there's actually no proof that he's going to kill the child. There's nothing. Yeah. I don't even think they imply it. I think it's just there's just a kid who's there, and he's like, "Oh, they're going to kill children in this," and it's like, "Oh, come on, yeah."
I'm sure the clown will kill a child in the movie
in spectacular fashion. There you go. If anyone wants to see a clown kill some kids in real spectacular fashion, go watch Sloppy the Psychotic. All right, there's a child actor. Legitimately a child with Down syndrome.
Oh my God!
In real life, because he was the director's friend's son.
Right.
And these kids had the time of their life. This kid, they put him in the barbecue grill and closed it and turned it all the way up and burned him alive. Like he kills this clown kills an entire like a 8-year-old's birthday party, kills all the kids and all the parents, and this was long before Art the Clown. So
Yeah.
Michael Mahoney.
There you go.
Give it up, Jim.
I don't get it. Like I said, Fulci was doing it. This is not the only kid he's killed in any of it. He kills kids in a lot of his movies.
He does.
Whatever. People are dumb.
If only we could watch Bob die multiple
I was going to say,
times.
except for Bob and House by the
Fucking
Cemetery,
Bob, for some
the one kid you actually were hoping it would happen to.
Fucking Bob.
Yeah.
And speaking of House by the Cemetery, my second pick is the opening kill. Which technically there's two, but I always thought, and this is another iconic image to me. So the kill, basically the beginning of House by the Cemetery, the cold open of the film, you've got, standard slasher movie trope. Got the young couple, had some sex. The guy walked away to go do something. She's naked and, oh, where are you, Jim? Where are Steve? I think is the guy's name. Steve, where'd you go? Where are you? She's all topless, puts a shirt on, gets up, finds Steve nailed and bloody to the back of a door. Then an arm comes with a knife, stabs her behind the head, and it comes out of her mouth. The tip of the knife just right out of her mouth. Now, this image, number one, hell of a way to start a movie, off with a bang, which is also, like The Beyond, a very batshit insane Lucio Fulci movie. It gets fucking crazy. But this image is at two. I've seen so many, such a quick moment, T-shirts, posters, that old, I don't even think the magazine exists anymore, Ultraviolent. They had a T-shirt that was this image with Ultraviolent underneath it, and that was like the horror magazine's logo and the way they advertised it. So it was a very, and that I believe that magazine stopped a long time ago, but that magazine was what highlighted Italian horror and like Coffin Joe and stuff. That's how I found out about a lot of those different types of films.
Coffin Joe.
I'm a huge Coffin Joe fan. So
At Midnight, I'll Take Your Soul.
Yeah,
we actually just covered that on our podcast.
I think I saw that you guys talked. I gotta give it a listen. Great. Those are great horror movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always thought the knife to the back of the head, out the mouth.
It's great.
That's like Fulci to a T. Like we're gonna just take this woman's head, have the knife, stabbing her in the back of the head could have been enough. It comes out and through her mouth. So always loved it. And this is a movie that's also got a lot of iconic kills in it that we won't get into here. But I just love how it starts off with a bang. Just this young, attractive woman being murdered in a movie that's technically not a slasher film. It's really it kind of is and isn't. But I just always thought it was a very iconic just image. That one shot of her with the knife and then falling to the side, blood coming out. Awesome. I think, Manny, you have shirts of this too, right? Like, So it's just everybody loves the knife to the back of the head. Yeah. Very, very, very good. Start off with a bang there.
We did our own knife to the back of the head, but we did it based on Maniac.
So
with the in the waterbed, we did it in a sink. We did it because it's an awesome shot.
It's an awesome kill. And it's probably a really practical, easy effect to achieve. It's all in the editing and then just having her have this thing in her mouth and then the I guess application on the back of her head that's stuck to her head. That's the end of the knife. But all of it just looks great. I've always liked it.
That's it.
Once again, I think I saw this in a ton of fucking death metal videos back in the day and band T-shirts and stuff like that. So. That's it. House by a Cemetery, stabbed through the head is my second pick.
Okay, so my pick is New York Ripper, which we mentioned earlier. Lesser talked about, lesser seen film, but one of the first Fulcis that I saw, as I said. And unlike other death scenes, this one actually makes sense in the context of the film. So the movie itself is about a detective chasing a killer, and the killer has now decided he is going to taunt the living shit out of the detective, and he is killing the hooker that the detective has been sleeping with through the course of the film. And he actually calls the detective to let him hear her scream. as he kills her.
Yeah.
He ties her up to the bed, hands and legs to the posts of the bed, and he is going to slowly take a single razor blade. He's going to he holds the razor blade and cuts her in multiple places to death. One is, I think first it's her leg. He goes down her thigh, and they're all, as you said earlier, Fulci likes those slow, long takes of it. So he drags the blade slowly down her thigh, and again, it's Fulci, so it looks great. Like you see the splitting of the skin, the bleeding, the whole thing.
It's a good effect for sure.
It's awesome. We go down her leg, then the camera cuts to the side and it goes down her chest, and it actually cuts her nipple in half.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And down her chest, and then he goes to her forehead, and this is the toss-up between this and the zombie eye scene as one of his best ones. He cuts right down and slices right through the eyeball.
It's gnarly.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the blood pools up and everything. Yeah. Like, remember that old black and white film, I can't think of the name of it, where they slice through the eyeball.
Is it Grand Illusion? It's
I think so.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Like 20s black and white.
Yeah, and
film.
it was basically just a dead cow that they used.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is obviously done in that style, but again, effects got so much better by the 70s, almost 50 years later after that.
Yeah.
This looks amazing. And he slices the eyeball right in half and keeps going through her cheek.
Oh my God.
While the detective is on the phone listening to her scream. And the detective comes running up, and he finally gets there. He runs up the fire escape, and he gets in to find her dead, and the killer's gone already.
It's probably the most realistic looking of the Fulci kills.
Yes. I haven't seen it in many years, but I remember thinking it was so effective. Isn't that the one where he makes those weird quacking noises?
It's the Donald Duck killer.
Yes, the killer
I was about to say.
He does everything in the voice of Donald Duck.
It's really freaky. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really, like they even say, he sounds like Donald Duck. Like it is purposely a Donald Duck thing.
It's really odd. It's an interesting, I was going to say, like, that's the one thing, like, Manny forgot to mention there. The killer sounds like Donald Duck.
He does.
It is pretty. Like, when you watch it and you watch, I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is going on with that?
Stupid with the Donald Duck thing.
Literally till the end of the movie, he's fucking every time.
He talks like Donald. Because he does all the kills. He makes phone calls and people, and he talks on the phone. I think he calls a radio station at one point.
Yes.
And even when there's nobody around, he's killing the people. He's stabbing. He's screaming like Donald Duck. Like, what the fuck is
It's like a combination of Burgess Meredith as the Penguin and Donald Duck. That's literally what it is. It's pretty ridiculous, but there's nothing creepy about it. I'll be honest. Like, the kill is effective, but him doing that like the whole time is like really, really fucking silly. But
it is
interesting.
It's really ridiculous.
That is a good one, though. All jokes aside, the kill is like, you could see like serial killers like do some weird, freaky shit like that with the cutting of the razor blades. That's like the most icky of it. It just feels like it could really happen.
Usually you see movies like that and it's a straight razor. Like, he's actually holding a single razor blade.
Yeah.
And it's like,
he's cutting something. Like, they used the effect it was something that he was cutting, I guess. I don't know if it was the blade itself or they just made like a fake body part where he's actually cutting, because it looks real. You know, when you watch the scene, it does look, and the eyeball might be an animal eyeball that they maybe painted up to match her other eye. Yeah. So possibly, you never know. It is pretty nasty.
I had almost picked that one for myself too, but then I saw you had picked it because just like Joe the Plumber, to me, those are the ones that you could see actually happening.
Yeah.
You know, like as outrageous, like, a bunch of spiders aren't going to kill me, or, I'm not going to get a drill through my head. Probably not. But those let's hope not. But those are the ones I could actually see, I could feel, you could feel it.
Yeah.
We've all been accidentally cut by a blade. We've all had something poked in our eye or something, and so you can sense memory those things as it's happening. It's really effective.
Yeah, it's nasty. Yeah. It's a good one though.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my second is is From the Beyond. Hey, what do you know?
Yay.
What do you know? We're back to the Beyond.
3 for 3, all 3.
We're back to the Beyond. In the Beyond, there is a character who the psychic woman is also blind.
Yeah.
And she has a dog.
I know this.
There is one scene where she's in her parlor.
Dickie the dog.
Dickie the dog.
I think his name's Dickie.
Dickie, yes. The dog's named Dickie. It's a German Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
And he is her seeing eye dog, and she's in her parlor and you look at it like there's no other way to describe the room other than yes, this is what a parlor looks like. When you think of the word parlor, this is exactly it. There's a piano in the center, and there's like Oriental rugs, and there's 20-pound like curtains hanging on the windows. This is a parlor. So this is her little psychic parlor, and she's there, and a bunch of spirits or of zombies, I guess, that kind of materialize in the room, and they're taunting her, and she's screaming at them, "No, I did what you wanted, and Dickie, attack!" And the dog attacks the zombies. The weird zombies. Like, you didn't realize they were physical because you can actually see through them until the dog attacks, and suddenly it's fucking
they materialize now.
Suddenly, attack, Dickie, attack. And they do that. And then it suddenly stops, and she sits quietly. She says, because Dickie's done attacking.
Yes.
Clearly, Dickie has decided the zombie has had enough.
The zombie ran away, apparently.
And she's sitting on the she's kneeling down. She's sitting on the floor in the corner of the room, and Dickie comes over to her, and he sits next to her, and they just kind of sit there for a moment. It's a moment of just silence. They just do nothing. And then the dog turns and rips her fucking throat out for no goddamn reason. Like, he just said, I've had enough of your shit.
He was possessed by the Beyond. The Beyond got him.
Or he was just fed up.
Yeah, it might have been. He's like, I've had it with this shit.
Yeah.
You can't see it. I'm doing all the work here.
Oh, no.
And he rips her throat out, and he pulls. And oh, my God. And now, if you look at it, you can tell it's a dog puppet. The dog puppet looks really good.
Yeah.
It actually does really look good. But it is somebody like just pull, and it rips, and the blood that comes out of this, the stream of it. Fulci, something else that I noticed in Fulci, and he did it even in Sweet House of Horrors and House of Clocks. He even did it in that. He has this tendency where the blood sound effect just sounds like a faucet running. It's just, it's just water running.
It's like a garden fountain. Just like,
and that's the sound you get of the blood shooting out of the throat like a garden hose, exactly that. And the water just hitting the ground. And he rips it out, and then she screams, and you think the dog is done, but then he comes back, and the dog bites her on the side of the head and rips her ear off.
He wasn't fucking around.
No.
Oh, God.
Dickie, no.
Oh, God.
And I absolutely love it. This dog mauling is better than the pianist in Suspiria, and that motherfucker deserved it.
Yeah.
He was a dick.
I was about
happy
to
to
say,
see
this
him
one is
die.
better. Yeah.
Yes, and that was a good one. It rips his throat out, too. But he was an asshole and deserved it. She didn't deserve it. Like, Dickie? Why, Dickie? Why?
Just because he wanted to.
Dickie was such a good boy.
I think it's implied. I think when he attacked the Beyond zombie,
yes,
it possessed him.
That's why he just stopped.
Then,
he's like, oh shit!
Doesn't he just run away, never to be seen again?
Yeah.
Dickie's gone.
Yeah.
Dickie has left the building after that.
I'll have to be honest too. I'm not 100% sure Dickie was a seeing eye dog, because if you watch the film,
well, no, he does have the harness,
right? But she's always walking next to him.
Okay,
and. There's scene where that weird thing happens in the house and they all leave. She walks out first and the dog follows them. So I'm like,
so he was her seeing eye dog, but he wasn't trained.
Yeah, the dog never actually leads. Like, the dog's never in the front. She's either on the side. Yeah, like she just owned a dog.
Yeah,
the dog
he does have the
he does have the
hard harness on him. And she does in a couple of scenes, but you're right. You're right. He's not actually a trained dog. It's just some fucking dog.
She's never leading him anywhere.
Dickie is like, you kidnapped me, bitch.
That was his out.
Oh, God.
That was his escape plan.
He's going to rip her throat out and blame it on the zombies. Dickie found his window.
The amount of laughter you can't take any of these movies serious, I guess.
Dickie ran right to the police after this was over.
He just dipped. He was like, fuck this movie. Fuck
later.
this house. I'm leaving.
They should have had credits at the end of the movie, like Dickie was reunited with his family at the
end. He was like, he saw the zombies. He's like, why the fuck am I protecting her? I'm going to murder her and just leave and continue fucking doing my thing. Weird.
He said, I'm out. Then Dickie moved to Hollywood and made films with Jin Van Bebber or someone, you know? He's in the Manson family living somewhere.
Attack! Dickie! Attack!
All right, so this is where we're going to rank the Fulci Gore kill, our favorite disgusting moments from his filmography.
Hardest part of the day.
The hardest part, yes, of the episode. So I'll run down the list really quick so that we remember what they are and for the listeners. So Rob's pick, we have From the Beyond, Joe the Plumber's eyeball rip, or shift to the side.
Shift to the side.
And the City of the Living Dead drill kill with Bob. And then my pick is The Beyond once again. The shotgun I keep saying shotgun to the face. Shot to the face to the little girl. The gunshot to the face of the little girl. And then the House by the Cemetery stab through the head. And then Manny's picks, The Beyond, the dog attack on the blind girl, Dickie the dog. And then the razor kill from New York Ripper. So those are the 6 kills we're gonna battle, I guess is what you would call and rank right now. They're gonna battle each other, and we're gonna rank
weapons, but all right.
Yes. Well, if we're going by that,
I'm just gonna have to hurt some feelings.
Yeah, I can run to the bathroom and get a razor blade. We can.
There we go. I think that's the one that's gonna win. That's the only one that's really a weapon here. Well, the drill is technically not a weapon, but neither is a razor. But yes, speaking of razors, I'm curious if you guys agree. I think out of these 6, the razor kill to the eye, it's not even a kill technically, the razor cutting of the eye.
Well, she is dead Ripper. By the end of the scene. It does kill her. Probably wouldn't have, but
yes. She'd just be
She'd just be very unhappy for the rest of her life.
But I think you guys, I think when just looking at this list, that would be number 1.
I think so, definitely.
Yeah. I can totally stand with it. It's the most visceral. It's probably the most realistic.
It's not ridiculous. The situation's a little ridiculous with the duck quacking, but
well, that's what he's been doing. But as you said, also a lot of the kills just kind of come out of nowhere. This one is actually set up through the whole film. Yeah. Now this is something that the killer is doing. Again, where the antagonist is directly antagonizing the protagonist.
No, for sure.
I get it. So it is storyline based.
In the greater scope of the film, it does make sense.
Yes, it's actually part of the plot. It's not just a kill. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Manny, what would you make number 2?
I'm probably going to go with the knife through the head. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. I love the shot, and like you said, we did our own knife through the head in Blood Slaughter Massacre because I love that effect. I love the way it looks.
Rob, what are you thinking?
For number 2, I would say either the knife through the head or the dog.
Woo! See, so this is interesting. Yeah. So I in my mind, I was going with the dog.
Oh, but wow! Oh,
we'll go since 2 out of 3. We're gonna go with the knife through the head for number 2. The dog was my pick. I thought Manny was gonna pick the dog.
I wasn't gonna just throw my 2 picks at the top 2. I was trying to be a little cordial here.
We're gonna go with the knife. That was Rob's first pick. If he would have first mentioned the dog, we would have went with the dog.
Yeah.
But he first mentioned the knife. So we're gonna go with the knife. In my mind, it was going to be the dog, but no. It's the knife. We're going with number 2. Rob, what's number 3 you think on this list?
For number 3, again, because much like the very reason Manny picked the razor blade, I'm going to pick the drill because of just how effective it is in terms of just how they executed it. You know, I really like the drill. Yeah.
The drill is a pretty intense one. Manny, what are you going with for number 3?
I would go with the dog as well, but you know the drill is the drill. I mean, we all kind of agreed that we're all
the dog is off the table. That's not off the table yet, actually. The
that's
other
what I'm
two
saying.
are off the
Like
table.
we said,
Yes.
the dog, you guys, you're both thinking that the dog would be number 2, and then he threw another,
Threw a curveball there.
threw a curveball. Like I thought the dog was going to end up being number 3, just based on default. But you know what? He threw a curveball. I love the drill. I do love the drill. It's a good. So I'm gonna say I like the drill. I like it because anybody named Bob in a Fulci movie deserves to die all the horrible deaths
at the hand of a drill. They deserve the death of a drill.
Yes. I love the dog. I really love the dog scene. But as my wife would say, I hate when they make the dog bad. Why must the dog be a bad dog?
I was gonna pick the dog. So the drill won 2 out of 3. So the dog is not hitting home runs today. It seems. So it's not yet at least. All right. So we're gonna make the drill kill to Bob from City of the Living Dead number 3 because I was gonna go with the dog. So in that order, that's the way it's gonna be. All right. So back around.
To you now.
To me now.
You pick the first one.
So you're number 4.
So number 4.
He's going to knock the dog down again.
No. I'm going to go with the dog. Looking at what we have, it's the most brutal of what we have left and the most probably violent. Mm-hmm. I'm sure some people disagree with me, but just kind of the fact that number 4 to me would be the dog in the order we have it, because not only does he rip out her throat, he rips out the side of her face as well.
Whole side of her head.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think that. I mean, we're ranking just for the sake of kind of fun. But
yes,
the fact is, I think that they're all. I think all 6 of these. Are pretty even in just awesomeness.
That's why I thought it'd be fun to
and,
rank them.
Yeah,
they're all awesome. So I'm gonna go number 4, the dog, the Dickie attacking the blind girl from the Beyond. Let's mix it up. Rob, what would be? Do you agree? Disagree? What were you gonna pick as number 4 in this list?
I'm going with Dickie.
So Dickie, you're going with Dickie.
Can't knock Dickie down any further.
Yeah.
At this point,
it's gotta be Dickie.
We got to put Dickie on the list. Manny, are you in favor of?
Yes, 100%.
Our boy
Dickie cannot go any farther than this. He can't go any farther down.
Yes. So we've got Dickie at number 4. Dickie dog attack on blind girl. All right.
So what do we have left?
So we've got the shotgun to the gunshot to the face of the little girl in the Beyond. Mm-hmm. We've got the plumber, Joe the plumber.
So Joe the plumber and no,
we got one more. We should only have 2 left. We're at
we
number 4.
should have 2 left. Yeah,
2. Sorry, 2. So shotgun to the face, the gunshot to the face,
gunshot to the face, and Joe the plumber.
Joe the plumber, both from the Beyond. So let's see. I'm thinking mine already. I got mine here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be the gunshot. Mm-hmm. I think Joe the plumber is a cool death, but I mean, in general, that would have been based on what we have here, regardless of how the others went. Joe the plumber would have been my number 6 because the others are all just so great. Yeah, I'm gonna say the gunshot.
Rob?
I'm gonna say the gunshot too, just because it's just so freaking violent. Mm-hmm. And unexpected. Like the first time I saw that and it happened, I remember just going, "Oh my god!" I was like, "What the?"
And then there's the append to that, which is the spider scene.
Yeah.
Which was going to be another one of my honorable mentions, the acid to the mother's face.
Yes.
There's all these deaths in this one fucking room.
Yeah.
Damn, Joe the plumber's family had just had no luck. They all were fucking brutally murdered.
They're all dead.
Funny enough, in my mind, when I was thinking of that, I was thinking about Joe the plumber. I thought you guys would rank the shotgun last.
The
gunshot last. So
now watching the little redhead's face blow up. Come on, man. It's
I didn't even pick my own pick as number 5. So then number 6 is Joe the plumber's eye rip or eye shift. So that is the order. That is the Haunted Hangover, Lucio Fulci Gore top 6, because we like weird even numbers.
Because we skipped the obvious too.
Yes. So top 6. So number 1, Razor Eye Kill, New York Ripper. Number 2, House by the Cemetery, stabbed through the head.
I have to be honest. I'm surprised you guys picked the New York Ripper as the first one. I'm honestly surprised. I thought that would be farther down, but it really is a very visceral kill.
Yeah, that's it.
No, number 3, City of the Living Dead, drill kill to Bob. Number 4, the dog attack, Dickie dog attack on Blind Girl. Number 5, I keep saying shotgun, gunshot to little girl's head. And Joe the plumber, eye gouging, ripping, shifting to the side. Yeah. Very good list we have here. Very, very gory moments in Lucio Fulci history in all of his films. And I'm sure there's people out there that are like, you guys are missing a lot of them, but maybe we'll do this again in the future.
I've watched quite a few Fulci films this year. I'm trying to, last year I tried to watch as many Cronenberg movies as I could get my hands on, and I think I got to 15 or so last year. This year I'm already at 16 or 17 Fulci films. Wow. Because I just want to watch as many, and I've got a couple more that I want to go through. There's really not unless you go beyond. When you go before his giallos and this, before that, people don't know most of them. No. They're really hard to find in general, the comedies and the action films, other than Contraband and Conquest. The others, they're hard to find. Yeah. So, but
listen, this inspired me. This inspired me to go back and rewatch some of these. It's been a while since I watched some of these movies. I even have a list in front of me of at least 8 of his movies and the release dates. And I'm like, I have to revisit. Like New York Ripper, been a minute. I have to go back and give that a watch. It's been a few years, I think, since I revisited that one. So this inspired me. Our list, our wonderful gory list here has inspired. Hopefully it inspires the listeners to also maybe there's some listeners that have never seen a Lucio Fulci film, and
it's possible.
Their first taste of it. Don't eat anything. Don't have your Thanksgiving feast and then watch House by the Cemetery. That might ruin your day. Or City of the Living Dead with the entrails. So that might fuck you up, but maybe it won't. Who knows? Maybe you'll get hungry. I don't even know. Everyone's different. So
I am perfect. I shoot my film. I stay all today on my legs. And when Atkins answer to my friend Clive Barker, that is Fulci is old and sick.
So that was our Thanksgiving Fulci feast. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you and the Stabby Road Podcast?
First off, thanks for having me. I had such a fun time here. Stabby Road, you can listen to anywhere there are. You can listen to Apple or Spotify, anywhere you can listen to podcasts. We're there. You can see any of our socials under Stabby Road, which is Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. I don't like saying X.
It sounds so like X. I'm on X. What is so?
Yeah,
what?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Is that an OnlyFans page?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and you could see we have a bunch of clips from each episode on our YouTube channel. Again, they're all under the name Stabby Road. We're going to start soon putting whole episodes up on video as well. Because we do shoot all our stuff. As for me, you can find me under Rob Graydon. Any of my socials, the same thing. Facebook, they're all under the name Rob Graydon, ROB, GRAYDON. What do I have coming up? I have more. We did mention this, but I do direct for Sesame Street. So I have more Sesame Street things up. They're all on YouTube, whatever YouTube Shorts. You would find most of my stuff under for Sesame Street. I have a horror short that I'm going to be shooting in March called The Haunts in Us All. So that's pretty much it for me for now.
And be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, X, TikTok, at Haunted Hangover. Head over to hauntedhangover.com for links to all the glorious stuff we have to offer here, including our Patreon page that includes bonus spooky content.
And if you like what you heard today, all of the Italian gore people and the blood and all of the gross stuff with the Thanksgiving, if you like what you hear today, please find us on our wherever you listen to the podcast and give us a good review. Otherwise, we come and stick a drill through your head.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is
More booze. Ciao.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.